Hey coin lovers, today we're diving into the top 6 most valuable Washington quarter-dollar coins. From silver treasures to rare mint errors, these quarters could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a rare coin update. First up, today, we're diving into the story of the 1984 Washington quarter-dollar coin. A piece of everyday change that many Americans have held in their hands without realizing the history it carries. Though it's not a rare or high-value coin in most conditions, the 1984 Washington quarter still has a unique place in the timeline of United States coinage. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932, replacing the standing Liberty quarter. Its design was created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The obverse features a profile portrait of Washington, designed by John Flanagan, and this design remained largely unchanged until the introduction of the State Quarters program in 1999. On the reverse side, you'll find an eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and an olive branch beneath it, a classic symbol of America's strength and desire for peace. The 1984 quarter was minted in Denver, as indicated by the D mint mark located on the obverse side, just to the right of the ribbon in Washington's hair. That year, the Denver Mint struck over 546 million Washington quarters, making it a common coin by mintage numbers. Because of its high production, this coin is easy to find in circulation even today. The 1984 quarter is made from a copper-nickel-clad composition, which is a copper core surrounded by an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This composition was introduced in 1965 as a cost-saving measure when the U.S. Mint moved away from using 90% silver in its coinage. The clad composition lacks intrinsic precious metal value, meaning the base value of a worn 1984 quarter is just 25 cents unless it has exceptional qualities. Now let's talk about its value in circulated, no-fine condition. No-fine, or heavily circulated coins, typically show a lot of wear. The hairlines on Washington's portrait are flat, the eagle's feather details are smoothed out, and the fields may be covered with scratches, nicks, or discoloration. In this condition, the coin doesn't hold any significant numismatic premium. Most 1984 quarters in average circulated condition are worth their face value, 25 cents. However, if the coin is in uncirculated or mint state condition, meaning it shows no signs of wear and has strong luster, it can be worth more. Mint. State examples graded MS-65 or better may be valued between $1 and $5 depending on collector demand and overall quality. Exceptional specimens, such as those graded MS-67 or higher by professional services like PCGS or NGC, can command values of $50 or more. That said, such coins are rare, and grading is critical in determining that kind of value. There are also a few interesting aspects to keep in mind when looking at 1984 quarters. Some collectors search for errors or varieties such as die cracks, off-center strikes, or double dies. However, there are no widely known or dramatic mint errors specifically associated with the 1984 quarter. If you happen to come across one with an odd minting flaw, it might still be worth examining under magnification or submitting for grading, especially if the error is visually clear and unusual. In summary, the 1984 Washington quarter is a common circulated coin from the modern era of American coinage. Its high mintage and widespread availability make it an accessible piece for beginner collectors. In circulated condition without any special errors or features, its value remains at 25 cents. But for those interested in American history and the evolution of our currency, it still serves as a meaningful reminder of our nation's past and its first president. Next up, we're taking a closer look at the 1981 Washington quarter-dollar coin, an everyday piece of American currency that carries more historical importance than most people realize. While this coin may not be especially rare or highly valuable in fine condition, Understanding its background helps deepen our appreciation for the coins we use and collect. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first president of the United States. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the obverse features a left-facing portrait of Washington with the inscriptions "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date. This iconic design remained in use for decades until the 1999 launch of the State Quarters program. The reverse side of the 1981 D quarter displays the familiar heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows above an olive branch, symbols of strength and peace. In 1981, the Denver Mint struck approximately 575 million Washington quarters bearing the D Mint mark, which can be found on the obverse side to the right of Washington's ponytail ribbon. This high mintage means the 1981 D quarter is considered a common coin, and examples are still widely found in circulation across the United States today. The composition of the 1981 D quarter is the standard copper-nickel-clad formula introduced. In 1965, it consists of a pure copper core with outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This clad composition lacks any silver content, which is why post-1964 quarters generally have minimal melt value. Now let's talk about what fine condition means and how that affects the coin's value. A coin in fine condition has seen moderate circulation. While most of the design elements remain visible, some details, such as Washington's hair strands or the eagle's feathers, may be worn down or smoothed out. The coin may also show minor nicks or scratches from handling and pocket wear, but it is still considered collectible as a representation of the coin's type and era. Because the 1981 D Washington quarter is so common and was not struck in silver, its value in fine condition remains at face value, 25 cents. There is no additional premium for circulated examples unless the coin has some unusual variety or error. However, if the coin is in mint state condition, meaning no signs of wear and full luster, it may fetch a higher price. Uncirculated examples. Graded MS-65 or above can sell for $5 to $20, and coins with exceptional eye appeal and grades over MS-67 may be worth even more to serious collectors. But for fine condition coins, the value is largely symbolic and historical rather than monetary. There are a few things collectors might look out for when examining a 1981 D quarter. Occasionally, coins from this period can exhibit minor die. Cracks, weak strikes, or off-center minting, features that, if dramatic enough, could raise the coin's value among error coin collectors. However, no major varieties or famous errors are widely known for the 1981 D quarter, so these cases are rare and must be authenticated to carry any premium. In conclusion, the 1981 D Washington quarter is a typical example of U.S. coinage from the early 1980s. It represents a stable time in the country's monetary system, during which billions of quarters were produced with a consistent and recognizable design. Although a 1981 D quarter in fine condition holds no significant numismatic premium, it remains a part of America's rich numismatic legacy and continues to be a staple of everyday commerce. Holding a coin like this connects you with over 4 decades of American history, from the era of Ronald Reagan's presidency to the present day. Next up, the Washington Quarter Series began in 1932 as a one-year commemorative coin marking the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. But due to its popularity, it became the standard design for the quarter dollar and remained so for over 65 years. The obverse of the 1995 P quarter continues to feature the classic portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. It shows Washington facing left, with the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the year 1995 below. On the reverse, we see the familiar heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches. Beneath, symbols of both strength and peace. Now let's talk about the minting specifics. The P mint mark on this quarter tells us that it was minted in Philadelphia. In 1995, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 1.1 billion Washington quarters, an enormous mintage. Because of this high production volume, the 1995 P quarter is considered very common and widely available, especially in circulated condition. Like other modern quarters from this era, the 1995 P quarter is made of a copper-nickel-clad composition. It has a solid copper core and an outer layer made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This composition was introduced in 1965 to replace the 90% silver content that earlier quarters contained. As a result, modern quarters like the 1995 P don't carry any intrinsic precious metal value, meaning their base value is tied directly to their condition and collector interest. In fine condition, the 1995 P Washington quarter will show noticeable wear from circulation. This includes flattened high points, such as the details in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers, as well as minor scratches, discoloration, and possible contact marks. Even with this wear, the coin remains easily identifiable and retains all of its major design elements. Because this coin is so common and has no silver content, its value in fine condition is essentially its face value, 25 cents. There is no collectible premium for worn examples unless they exhibit rare errors or varieties. However, if you happen to find a 1995 P quarter in uncirculated or mint state condition, with full luster and no visible wear, it can be worth more. Mint state examples graded MS65 by services like PCGS or NGC can be valued around $2 to $5. Coins graded MS67 or higher, which are much harder to find, can be worth up to $50 or more depending on quality and demand. One thing to be aware of is that the 1995 P quarter does not have any major known errors or varieties that significantly increase its value. Still, collectors often check for unusual minting issues like off-center strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, or doubling. If you believe you found a coin with one of these features, it may be worth having it evaluated by a professional to determine its authenticity and value. So, what does all of this mean for you as a collector or someone who just found a 1995 P quarter in your change? If it's in fine circulated condition, its value remains at 25 cents, but it's still a great example of late 20th century American coinage. It represents the final years of the classic Washington quarter design before the U.S. Mint launched the state quarters program in 1999, a move that would forever change how we collect quarters. In the end, the 1995 P quarter is a common but historical coin. It reminds us of a time before state designs took over, and it still honors George Washington with dignity and pride. Even if it isn't worth a fortune, it's part of a legacy that spans nearly a century, and that alone makes it worth a closer look. Next up, the 1985 D Washington quarter dollar coin. While this coin is extremely common and still widely used today, it carries a fascinating history and some collectible value worth exploring, especially for those interested in American numismatics. The Washington quarter has been a part of U.S. coinage since 1932. Originally introduced to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, it quickly became the regular issue for the quarter dollar. The design we see on the 1985 D quarter remained largely unchanged from its original form, with only minor updates over the decades. On the obverse side, we find the familiar left-facing bust of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. The inscriptions, "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date 1985 surround the portrait. On the reverse, the quarter features a heraldic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows above an olive branch, symbolizing both military strength and the hope for peace. The D Mint mark found on this coin identifies it as being struck at the Denver Mint. In 1985, the Denver Mint produced a massive number of these quarters, over 519 million in total. Because of this high montage, the 1985 D quarter is considered very common and easy to find in circulation even today. That abundance, combined with its modern copper-nickel composition, means that the coin doesn't hold significant value in most conditions. The 1985 D quarter, like other quarters minted after 1965, was made from a clad composition consisting of a pure copper core and outer layers made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This clad metal composition gives the coin its silvery appearance, but also means it has no silver value. So when it comes to determining how much this coin is worth, the condition becomes a key factor. In average circulated condition, which includes coins graded as fine, the 1985 D Washington quarter is worth its face value, just 25 cents. Fine. Condition generally means the coin has moderate wear. Washington's hair details will be worn but still visible, and the eagle's feathers on the reverse will be slightly faded from circulation. The rim may show light signs of wear as well, but the coin remains fully recognizable and intact. While most circulated 1985 D quarters are worth face value, uncirculated or high-grade specimens can bring more interest from collectors. A coin, in mint state 65 or better, with full original luster and no signs of wear, might sell for between $5 and $15. At the highest end, coins graded MS-67 or above, especially those with strong strikes and eye appeal, can command prices around $100 or more. However, finding a coin of that quality in loose circulation is rare. As of now, there are no major known errors or varieties associated with the 1985 D Washington quarter. However, as with any coin, it's always worth checking for minting mistakes, such as off-center strikes, die cracks, or doubling. Some collectors are particularly interested in these types of mint errors, which can occasionally push the value of a coin significantly higher. If you suspect you have a coin with an unusual feature, it might be worth submitting it to a professional grading service for authentication. Even though the 1985 D quarter is not considered a rare or high-value coin, it still plays an important role in the long and evolving story of U.S. currency. This coin belongs to the final era of the traditional eagle-back quarter design, just before the state quarters program was introduced in 1999. In that sense, the 1985 D quarter is part of the final chapter in a decades-long design legacy that helped define modern American coinage. So if you find a 1985 D Washington quarter in your pocket or coin jar, know that while its monetary value might only be a quarter, it still holds historical value as a piece of American coinage heritage. For new collectors, it's a great coin to start with. Easy to find, inexpensive to obtain, and a solid example of late 20th century U.S. minting. Next up, we're going to take a closer look at the 1974 Washington quarter-dollar coin. It might seem like just another everyday coin, but it actually has an interesting place in the history of American coinage. We'll walk through its background, mintage, design details, metal composition, and of course, its current value depending on condition. Let's begin with some background. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Its popularity led to it becoming the standard design for the U.S. quarter. The obverse, or front, features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. That same design remained in place for decades, including the 1974 issue. On the reverse of the 1974 quarter, you'll find the iconic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows and resting above an olive branch. This reverse design represents strength through preparedness and a desire for peace. It's a classic American image and was the standard reverse from 1932 until the launch of the state quarters in 1999. Now let's talk about the minting. The 1974 Washington quarter was struck at two main U.S. mint facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. If your coin has no mint mark, it was made in Philadelphia. If it has a small D mint mark on the obverse to the right of Washington's ponytail, it came from the Denver Mint. Both mints produced a high number of quarters that year. In fact, over 350 million were struck in Philadelphia and over 350 million in Denver. That adds up to more than 700 million quarters in total, making the 1974 issue very common in circulation. In terms of composition, the 1974 Washington quarter is made of a copper nickel clad, a pure copper core with outer layers made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This composition was introduced in 1965 to replace the 90% silver used in quarters before then. So, no, the 1974 quarter does not contain any silver, and its base metal value is less than $0.25. So what is a 1974 Washington quarter worth today? In average circulated condition, which includes most coins still found in pocket change, it is worth its face value of 25 cents. You'll often find these with noticeable wear on Washington's hair, flattening on the eagle's feathers, and some scratches or discoloration from decades of use. However, if you come across a 1974 quarter in uncirculated or mint state condition, meaning it shows no signs of wear and has strong luster, it can be worth more. A 1974 quarter graded MS-63 might sell for around $1 to $3. Coins in higher grades like MS-65 or MS-66 could fetch $10 to $30, and those in superb condition graded MS-67 or higher might reach $100 or more at auction. But finding one in such high grade directly from circulation is extremely rare. There are no widely recognized major errors or varieties for the 1974 Washington quarter, but it's always good practice to check your coins carefully. Look for oddities like off-center strikes, broad strikes, missing layers, or die cracks. These types of minting errors can make a common coin much more desirable to collectors, sometimes increasing its value significantly depending on the type and severity of the error. One important thing to note is that there is no 1974 business strike quarter. Only proof versions were made at the San Francisco Mint. So, if you ever find a quarter with a shiny finish and a small S mint mark, that's a proof coin originally sold to collectors, not a circulation coin. Next up, the Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Its design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, features a left-facing portrait of Washington on the obverse, along with the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the mint year, in this case, 1982. The reverse shows an eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows above an olive branch, symbolizing both strength and a desire for peace. By 1982, this design had been used for 50 years, but the early 1980s also brought major economic challenges, including inflation and rising metal costs. Because of this, the U.S. Mint made several cost-cutting decisions, and that's where the 1982 D Washington quarter becomes a bit more unique. In 1982, the Denver Mint struck over 480 million Washington quarters. These coins bear the small D mint mark on the obverse, to the right of Washington's ponytail. Like quarters minted after 1965, the 1982 D quarter is made of a copper nickel-clad composition. It has a pure copper core with outer layers made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. So unlike quarters minted before 1965, it contains no silver. One of the most notable facts about 1982 quarters is that the U.S. Mint stopped producing uncirculated mint sets that year. That means collectors had fewer ways to get pristine examples of 1982 coins. Most 1982 quarters that exist today have been heavily circulated, and if you've found a 1982 D quarter in bad condition, meaning it has worn surfaces, faded details, and possibly scratches or dings, it falls into that majority. So what's a 1982 D Washington quarter worth in bad or heavily circulated condition? The honest answer is, it's worth 25 cents, its face value. Because the coin is so common and lacks precious metals, worn examples simply don't carry any premium in the collector's market. collectors generally seek coins in much better condition, such as mint state or near mint state examples, especially because uncirculated coins from this year are harder to find. That said, higher grade 1982 D quarters can be worth more. A coin in mint state 63 might be worth around $4 to $6. If you happen to find one graded MS 65 or higher, the value could rise to $15 or more, with the top graded examples occasionally selling for over $100 at auction. But again, these are rare, and most pocket change examples in bad condition won't come close to that. One more interesting thing about 1982 D quarters. Some collectors hunt for a rare variety called the No Mint Mark 1982 P quarter, but that variety only applies to coins from the Philadelphia Mint, not Denver. So if your coin has a D, you can rule out that rare error. While the 1982 D Washington quarter in bad condition doesn't hold much monetary value, it still tells an important part of America's economic story. It represents a time when the U.S. Mint was adapting to budget constraints and shifting priorities. And if you're a collector, even a worn 1982 D quarter can fill a valuable spot in a complete Washington quarter series. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy learning about coin values and U.S. coin history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell for notifications. Whether you're collecting, coin roll hunting, or just curious, there's always more to discover in the world of coins. Until next time,